Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I'm so excited today because I get to do a video that I love doing on my channel, and I haven't done one in a very long time, I think. And I also really love watching these videos from my favorite booktube creators, so I'm just overall excited that I get to do this one today. It's a ranking of the book tropes within romance, and I've picked about 30 tropes that I frequently come across in books. There are some that I've kind of excluded because I just didn't have enough space in my Canva template that I've created. But yeah, a lot of the most prominent tropes that we come across nowadays, especially in contemporary romances, are present here. And I'm just going to be ranking them according to my preferences. So the ones that I'm absolutely obsessed with, the ones that I come across very often and I really like, and then ones that I don't really like. And I'll possibly be going off on a bit of a rant about those because I have very strong opinions on the ones that I don't really like, and I actually have very strong opinions on the ones that I love as well. But we'll just go ahead and see which ones will kind of spike my blood pressure, if you will. So I'm just going to show you, or at least tell you first, what the categories are that I've chosen for this template. And I think the previous ones that I did were all food based, so favorite foods were like the top tier, and then the least favorite foods of mine were the lower tier. Now I've stuck to songs that mean something to me. I'm not sure that some of them really have a very good kind of connection to the tropes, but for me it kind of makes sense, so I'm just going to try to explain it. The first tier, where we have like the books that I'm absolutely obsessed with, so the tropes that I'm absolutely obsessed with and will actively look for in the books that I pick up, and the ones that are just my favorite tropes overall, is called the Die For You rank. And this one is inspired by the song by The Weeknd, Die For You, and I think it speaks for itself, this one, so I would die for these tropes. Now, the second category, the second tier that we have is No Ordinary Love, which is inspired by the Sade song. I absolutely love that song, and in my mind it kind of makes sense that I've picked this song because I wouldn't put it as an obsessed kind of love, let's say, but a no ordinary love, so something that is very special. And I think that the tropes that I'm going to put down in this category just are shy off of making the obsessed list, but are still very special to me. Now, the third rank, we've got Feeling Good. This song is very popular, obviously, and it's tropes that I will come across, I like, and they make me feel good, but are not at the same level as the first two categories, and sometimes maybe have been done a lot. So I've kind of gotten plenty of those in my back reading, and I'm kind of a little bit over maybe at some point. I'm just going to get to some examples so that you get what I mean about that one. And then the last tier, the fourth tier, is Bad by Michael Jackson. Now obviously I love Michael Jackson and I love this song. It's just for the sake of the name Bad that we've chosen this one, and it's going to be the tropes that I just genuinely dislike, will typically avoid when I come across them in books that I'm trying to pick up, and just tropes that don't typically work for me. So these are all of the categories that I've chosen, and I'm going to go ahead and screen record my screen so that you can see what I'm going to be showing you. Let's see that it records. Yes, it's recording. That's great. I honestly have kind of jumbled up all of the tiers, so I really don't know if I've kind of stuck them together in a way that is not going to be very handy, but let's just try it out. The first one is actually one of my all-time favorite tropes. This is the Friends to Lovers trope, and it's definitely going in the Die For You section because I've mentioned this before on my channel. I'm going to try to be as sure as possible about it, but it's basically whenever you have a friendship, you already have a very established love relationship. It's just a love that is not physical, but love that is on an emotional level, love that is based upon many experiences together, many kind of support moments together. So you already have a very much affectionate relationship. And then when the physical aspect comes in, there's just a lot of interesting push and pull situations within the friends to lovers trope, where both of the friends will typically ask themselves if it's worth it to get together and possibly ruin their friendship. And that just works for me. There is a little bit of angst that is thrown into the mix. And I just love this trope. I typically, whenever it's done really well, it's going to be an all-time favorite book of mine whenever I pick one of those up. And yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite tropes. Now, the next one is age gap. Now, I do love both the varieties of age gap, so older man, younger woman, and older woman, younger man. Both of those work for me, and I have quite a few books that I've read in the past 2 years with this trope that really have worked very well for me, are 4 or 5 star reads. So I'm definitely going to put it in the No Ordinary Love category, because I'm not obsessed with this trope. I will not really actively look for it as I would a friends to lovers story. But if I come across it, I'm definitely intrigued and am excited to pick up such a book. So age gap is definitely going into the second tier. And then The Secret Identity is one that kind of, I'm a bit on the fence about this one, because it can work out well in certain instances, but most of the time it bothers me because secret keeping typically is not something that I enjoy in my romances. So I would probably put it into the bad category, because most of the time if I think about secret identity, it's most of the time someone who is a celebrity or like a rock star or sometimes a billionaire who is keeping their status a secret, and then when it comes out it's typically part of the third act breakup or conflict, and typically it just bothers me a little bit. So I wouldn't say that it's a favorite trope of mine, and I wouldn't actively pick up a book that has this trope, so I'm just going to keep it here. And then just looking at the 3 up here, I think I'm going to put them all together into the Die For You tier. This is the Right Person, Wrong Time, Always Been You, and Forced Proximity, because I think they kind of go hand in hand together. I'm just going to put them up like this so that we have more space. So Right Person, Wrong Time typically has to do with some kind of situation, conflict, status as well. And typically when we have this trope, the person that, so there's also mutual pining or sometimes single pining, so from one part, but it just goes very well with the Always Been You trope, because the two persons cannot be together in the first place. And then some time passes, a lot of things happen, and it's always been you in the meantime. And then when they get together, it just works out really well, and there's a lot of angst, a lot of emotional situations. So those two just go hand in hand together for me, so I really love those together. And then Forced Proximity, I think is a very fun trope, because it kind of allows for a lot of getting to know one another, and it allows for a lot of comic or sometimes awkward or sometimes fun situations when they need to, for example, share one bed, or when they are forced to be together in the same space and they have some kind of animosity between them. It is just such a fun trope typically, and I absolutely love it. I haven't really come across very many Forced Proximity romances that haven't worked for me, so I'll definitely put it into the Die For You category. Now, Enemies to Lovers. This trope has been so popular for so long. I think maybe, would I say like 7-8 years ago, it was so prominent, or maybe 6-7 years ago, it was so prominent. I felt like every single book was Enemies to Lovers. And I think I've just read so many of these that it's no longer easy to find one that is original, that hasn't been done before, if you get what I mean. So I think that this is the way that I feel about a couple of the tropes, by the way, that I'm going to mention later on as well. I like it. I've read quite a few Enemies to Lovers books that I've really enjoyed, but it's just so hard to come across one that I feel like I haven't read before. So I'm going to stick it into the feeling good category, because I do enjoy these. It's just that they're not favorites of mine anymore. And then the bully romances are exactly the same. So I would typically pick up a bully romance maybe again 5-6 years ago, thinking about Penelope Douglas right away. And I have enjoyed their books, right? I have enjoyed the Bully, I think, by Penelope Douglas. I have enjoyed Punk 57. I've enjoyed the Followaway series. I've enjoyed the Kill Switch series. I don't know, the Devil's Night series, I think it's called. I've enjoyed quite a few romances that include the bullying trope. And at that time, I think it was a valid type of trope. It was done in a way that was very current, very kind of exciting. So I think if I were to read similar bully romances nowadays, I don't think that I would feel the same way about them. And that's why I wouldn't say that I enjoy them as much as I think I would have a couple of years ago. I wouldn't say that I actively dislike them, so I wouldn't put them into the bad category, but that's why I'm going to stick with the third rank in this one. Now, road trip romances are so much fun. I haven't read very many, but the ones that I can think of, especially Naked Love by Julianne, I've just had such a fun time with that book. And I really, really love the forced proximity within this trope as well. And typically there is a lot of adventures, a lot of interesting situations, banter within those books, and it just makes for a fun time. So I'm definitely going to keep it into the second tier, which is the No Ordinary Love tier. Now, Lessons in Seduction, I'm going to be honest, I think that the Lessons in Seduction trope is typically very popular in historical romances, and I don't read very many of those. I have read one with this trope that I absolutely loved. I think it was called Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's that one. And then I've read a couple that are contemporary romances that I've really enjoyed, but I haven't read very many of these. But I am very intrigued by this trope, because there is just something very captivating about having someone explore their sexuality, and someone who has experience kind of rediscovering what they love about physical intimacy when trying to teach it to someone else, especially when they start to grow feelings for that person. So I'm definitely intrigued by this trope, and I would definitely consider it one that I really, really like. So, the love triangle trope. So this one is a bit controversial for many people, I think, because the love triangle trope often includes cheating. Now, I'm not opposed to cheating in books, because it does create for a lot of angst and tension, and I typically like angst and tension within books, so I'm not opposed to that. So I would say that the love triangle trope goes into the No Ordinary Love category for me, because I think that there is something very primitively exciting about two guys vying for the attention and the love of one woman. So yeah, it is just exciting for me, and I really, really like this trope as well. Sometimes there are books that are not done very well with this trope, so I will give it that, but typically I would gravitate towards this trope. Now, the next one is very controversial for me, because it's one of the tropes that I actively absolutely dislike. This is the brother's best friend trope. I've mentioned it before on my channel, and I've gone on rants, I think, also on Instagram, I think once, where I've explained my problem with this trope. This trope is just so off kilter for me when it comes to how it's done most of the time. We typically get so the best friend of said brother, who has feelings for the little sister, and then the sister also has feelings for him, and they need to keep it a secret for some reason from the said brother, so that he doesn't find out and doesn't get pissed off that they have a relationship together. And I just don't get that. I don't get the secret keeping. I don't get why the brother should get mad at two people that he loves, that have come together to love each other as well. I just don't get also the whole betrayal part within this trope, and how it's always done in the same formulaic way. So the same formula is taken into this trope every single time. And I'm just over it. I think it really needs to be a book that I feel someone that I have similar tastes with will have recommended to me that I'm going to pick it up, or that I'm going to kind of force myself to pick up a couple of these until I find one that I'm going to be picking up books with this trope. But otherwise, I'll just steer clear. Honestly, I really, really actively dislike this trope. Now, the next one is why choose and polyamorous romances. I really like those. I wouldn't say they're favorites of mine because they very heavily lean on the steaminess within a romance, and I typically enjoy books more when they have a more romantic side to them. But I'm not opposed steamy romances, so I'll typically have one somewhere waiting for me whenever I'm in the mood for one. So I definitely really enjoy both Why Choose and polyamorous romances. Now, Boyfriend's Dad. I haven't read very many of these. Obviously The Doctor by Nikki Sloan comes to mind, but because I haven't read very many and I haven't been disappointed by one, I'm going to put it into the No Ordinary Love category because I think that would be fair. But yeah, I think that would be fair. Now, the marriage in trouble trope. This is again, together with the friends to lovers trope, is I think my all-time favorite trope, because I've mentioned it again many times over on my channel. I really love it when we don't get the situation of the couple falling in love. Because there's just so many stories with the beginning of a love story, but there are so few stories of a love story when it's gotten to a point where there are obstacles, where there is trouble in paradise, and how couples overcome such obstacles, and maybe lack of communication or lack of attention to each other. How do you get over these parts within a marriage? So I absolutely adore this trope, and I actively look for books with this trope, because typically they will end up in my all-time favorites list if they're done really well. So I really, really love this one. And then angst, I've mentioned already, in coupling with other tropes, like the love triangle trope, the right person, wrong time, always been you, sometimes friends to lovers as well. I really love angst within books. I think that it gets me pumped and excited to keep on going within the story, to kind of overcome this angsty feeling that I get when we have certain difficult situations going on. So I really, really love angst within my romances, so it's definitely going up in the top tier. Now, office romances, I will compare to enemies to lovers, where I've just read so many of these that it needs to be, I think, coupled with other tropes that I really love, that it's going to be a very successful read for me. Otherwise, it's going to be an average read. So I think I'm going to put it into the feeling good category. And then we've got sports romances. I absolutely love sports romances, and that is because I just love sports in general. I'm not a very athletic person myself, but I just love watching all kinds of sports. So I'm very versed in all kinds of sports, and typically I get very excited when I read about sports in romances. I get very invested into the competition side of it, if you will. So I just really love them, and they are ones that I will actively pick up, whether it's hockey, football, soccer, ice skating, anything I would pick up. And I really love, specifically nowadays, looking up romances that include sports that I haven't read very much about. So yeah, any recommendations are welcome, by the way, below in the comment box. So yeah. The next one up is Secret Baby. I know that Secret Baby is one that most people don't enjoy. I wouldn't say that I have a very difficult relationship with this trope, but I wouldn't say that I actively look for it. And sometimes it can be annoying, specifically if it's kept a secret for very nefarious reasons. But sometimes it really works. I can think off the top of my head that book in the Lark Cove series by Daphne Perry. Was it called Tragic, or no, it was another one. I don't remember the name of it, but the first book within the Lark Cove series has Secret Child in that case, and it was done in a tasteful way. I really enjoyed that one, so I wouldn't say that this trope really bothers me a lot. Especially when it's done well, it can be really, really a satisfying trope. So yeah, this is the ranking that I'm giving it. And then Insta Love is one that I actively dislike. So I have to clarify here that Insta Love doesn't work for me in full-length romances. I completely accept it when it's in novellas because you just have a shorter amount of time to tell a story. So I can accept Insta Love within a shorter novel, but when it comes to a full-length novel, it just doesn't work for me because it kind of kills the excitement out of the whole story when we already within the 10, 15 or 20% mark have the couple in love. I typically enjoy whenever we have some kind of push and pull, some kind of angst, some kind of pining, longing. This is what kind of drives me within the story, and when there's Insta Love, it just doesn't really excite me very much. So I'm typically put off when I see that there's Insta Love within a story, and something needs to happen when I start such a story and I find out that there is Insta Love. Something really amazing needs to happen, or a trope needs to be introduced that I absolutely love for it to work for me, and that typically doesn't happen. So yeah, it's just one that I don't enjoy very much. Now, fake dating has really blown up in the last like 3 to 4 years, and I think that within contemporary romances, a lot of authors have found a very good niche of incorporating it together with other tropes so that it works very well. There's a lot of banter within these books. There's a lot of awkward, interesting, and most of all, kind of fun situations, and a lot of kind of sometimes like awakening of feelings, if you will. So people who typically wouldn't be matched together, so like opposites attract situations, will come together with the fake dating trope, and that typically works. And I really enjoy most of the books that I've read with this trope, so I'm keeping it into the no ordinary love category. Now, the next one again is probably controversial because I really don't like amnesia romances. I know that a lot of people love amnesia romances. Specifically, I can think of QB Tyler's Forget Me Not. Everyone loves that book, and I really actively disliked it. Amnesia just doesn't work for me because what I've found is that a lot of time it goes together with secret keeping or with some kind of manipulation of information so that the other person doesn't get affected because they have amnesia, and that kind of really puts me off. I don't think that it's fair to someone who has lost their memory to have some kind of manipulative communication with them, because it kind of brings them off kilter with their reality, if you understand what I mean. So I really just, it's not the trope for me. I will typically not pick up a book with amnesia nowadays because I've just read a couple and they haven't been it for me. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this trope. Now the next one is Second Chance. Second Chance is together with Marriage in Trouble and Friends to Lovers, another all-time favorite trope of mine, because I think there is something so wonderful about having two people who for some reason couldn't make it work the first time. Maybe they weren't ready, maybe the circumstances weren't aligned, maybe just life has thrown something at them that hasn't prepared them for whatever happened, and basically they just couldn't make it work the first time, and then years past, they've had the chance to develop themselves, to kind of get to know themselves, and to have more contributions into a relationship now that they've grown. And then they come together and it looks like now all of the stars have aligned. It's just so poetic for me. I absolutely love this trope, and I'll pick up any second chance romance that is recommended that is a 5-star read by my favorite content creators. And typically, because I'm a very basic person, I will typically love those as well. So yeah, I really love this trope as well. Now, mafia romances, I'm going to say I'm very kind of on the fence between these two. I would say that there's very few mafia romances. The ones that I can think of are by J.T. Geisinger, the what is it, Queens and Monsters books. Those I really loved, and if I think about those, I would put it into the no ordinary love trope, but then or rank. But when I think about the majority of the mafia romances that I've read, they've really been very repetitive, very similar to one another, not really original in my opinion. So I would say that it's more fair to put it into the third rank, I think. Yeah. All right, Marriage of Convenience. I think I like this trope. I haven't read very many of these because I don't typically read a lot of historical romances, but when it comes to contemporary romances, the ones that I've read lately really have worked for me because typically, again, we'll have opposites attract. Sometimes we'll have like billionaire and workplace and something like that combined with the marriage of convenience trope, and typically it really works well. We've got sometimes a combination with Grumpy Sunshine, which I absolutely love as well. So yeah, the ones that I've read lately really have worked for me. I wouldn't say that it's an all-time favorite trope, but I definitely enjoy reading a book with this trope. So yeah. And then Unrequited Love. Unrequited Love I would put into the obsessed category, so die for you category, because the thing with Unrequited Love is that it involves mutual pining, and that is just, I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for longing, pining for some kind of distress between the two people before they get together. The emotional trauma just gets me going. So yeah, I'm all for it. I really love this trope, and yeah, I would actually equate it to like Always Been You and Right Person, Wrong Times on the same level. It's just so good, so freaking good. I really love reading such stories. And then again, it goes hand in hand with mutual pining. Absolutely love it. Really love it. Grumpy Sunshine, I don't know how I've coupled so many die for you tropes here, but Grumpy Sunshine is another one that I absolutely love because there's just so much goodness when we have opposites who attract, someone who is grumpy and someone who is sunshiny. When they get together, typically like the barrier of the person who is grumpy needs to crumble because they just cannot stand maybe disappointing, or maybe kind of they just can't help themselves around the sunshiny character. They just need the light of the sunshiny character in their life, and I really love this trope. I think I just did a recommendation video with Grumpy Sunshine characters. I'm going to link it in the cards if you want to see that one. It's yeah, it's a joy, this trope, so I really like this one. Now, Rivals to Lovers very much resembles Enemies to Lovers, so I'm going to put it into the feeling good trope, although I just read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, and that trope was done so well within that book that I would typically move it maybe over to the No Ordinary Love. Yeah, let's put it over there. It's not, I don't think that it's at the same level as Enemies to Lovers. I think Rivals to Lovers is a bit better in execution. At least it's easily to execute. It's more easy to execute it, so it typically works better than the Enemies to Lovers trope. Because typically with Enemies to Lovers, oftentimes it doesn't really work as Enemies to Lovers. So what I mean by that is it's presented as Enemies to Lovers, but they're not really enemies, are they? They just have banter and dislike each other for some reason. It's not really that they're enemies. So I think that that's the thing that is the difference between Rivals to Lovers, because with Rivals, you actually have a reason for people to be rivals. Like, an example of that is also The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. The two characters had obvious reasons to have a rivalry between them, so it just works. That one just works. And then billionaire romances, I've read very many of these, so I'm just going to put it into the feeling good category because I do really enjoy a billionaire romance, but I've just read so many that it becomes, again, difficult to find one that is very original. So I think that it's a good idea to have it coupled together with another trope that will typically work for me. Then it's a very successful read. But again, it's just up to luck a little bit to see if I can find one. I really do enjoy billionaire romances, but not all the time. So yeah, this wraps it up. I think these were all the tropes that I had to talk about today. Thank you so much for sticking around if you've made it this far. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if there are any other tier ranking videos that you would like to see on my channel, and I'll try to do one. And I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.